Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-host, Robbie Cruz and James Higgins. And, guys, we are moving ever so closer to postseason baseball.
4 more days.
Unbelievable that we are that close. It's been a long season winding down here, but we still have some very exciting stories to explore tonight.
Yes, sir, we do. And which one are we going to start off with? Is it the Ronald Acuna injury? Is it all the possible firings? What are we going to start with, Andrew?
How about Mookie Betts' 305-foot throw from the corner?
That was insane.
Tropicana Field.
Well, we definitely have some very interesting stories to delve into tonight, and, of course, a continuation of our postseason discussion. But before we get into that, thank you all so much for tuning in. We're live every Wednesday night, as you know, from 8 to 9, and you can follow us on our Twitter. That is at NatPastimeCap, at NatPastimeCap for the shows that are posted the next day from the previous day, and that gives you the link to all of our YouTube channel and other stuff like that, and updates on the show as well. So with that said, right off the bat, we just want to open up the lines and let anyone know if you want to call in, discuss anything about the postseason, any news we're talking about. We'd love to have you on the show. That number is 202-319-5106, 202-319-5106.
And yes, sir, we would love to talk with you guys, express your ideas, tell us why we're right, tell us why we're wrong. Any ideas that you guys possibly have, we'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Last week we did have a caller who apparently didn't agree with some of my New York Yankees statements, but you know what? He was wrong, and you know what? That's just how it works out nowadays.
He's a Yankees fan, by the way. And live update, Pete Alonso just hit home run number 51, so he's now 1 home run shy of tying Aaron Judge for the rookie record.
Wow, that's 51 for Pete Alonso. And also, if we're taking a look at that race in the NL, Eugenio Suarez hit his 49th tonight, so he's now 2 out of the lead for Pete Alonso. And I believe those are the 2 left in the race, right? Is anyone else with them? Yeah,
No,
it's just those two right there. Yeah.
Now, how many more games do the Mets have this season?
4.
4 games.
4
yes.
after tonight.
So he's going to have to get 2 home runs in that amount of time. So
Correct, yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible, but, I mean, you know what? We'll have to see. I wouldn't mind someone dethroning Aaron Judge for that record there.
I would.
Let's go Alonso, baby. Let's go.
Alonso's not breaking that record. Trust me, Aaron Judge is the holder of the record.
You know,
for now.
As much as I don't like Pete Alonso, I would definitely love to see him take it over Aaron Judge, you know, for some unspecified reasons.
Because you hate the Yankees with the burning
I did
passion?
not say that. That is not a statement that I've ever said on this show.
Do you?
I don't know. We will have to.
I think we all know the answer to this question.
But hey, speaking of the Yankees, let's use that as a little bit of a segue to talk about our next topic, which actually happened right after the show, the day after last week, and that's Domingo German suspended on the accounts of violating the domestic violence policy for Major League Baseball. It was just confirmed today that his administrative leave is going to be extended through the remainder of the 2019 season. So if there was any doubt in your mind before, he definitely will not be playing any more baseball for the rest of the season. Won't be on the Yankees postseason roster. Won't pitch another game this season. Robbie, as a Yankees fan, how are we feeling about Domingo German's future with the franchise?
Well, I think it's clear that German's got to go. I don't think that there's any room on this team for that. After all, many of you guys have told me, why did the Yankees take on Yost Chapman, and why were you for that? That's not true whatsoever. I was actually against the Yankees acquiring Yost Chapman because I don't think that you don't need that kind of a thing on the team. I've heard Yankee fans say that we need to trade Domingo German, but it's not that simple. Look how long it took the Toronto Blue Jays to trade Roberto Osuna after all the allegations. And let's go back to Yost Chapman, for example. Yost Chapman was traded to the Los Angeles Dodgers, and then the trade simply couldn't go through because they didn't want to take on a wife beater. So trading German, it's going to take time, don't get me wrong, but I think somebody's going to take him. It's just a matter of when. I don't think we're going to get very much for him, but we can't just release him because he's still got some value on him. He's only 24 years old. He was 18-4 last season, so he's worth something to me. I don't know about James. What do you think?
Why would the Yankees not keep him? Like if you think the market is going to be down for him, why would they not keep him and just hope that he whips himself into shape after a possible suspension? I'm not saying a suspension is going to happen, but it's possible considering MLB's views on domestic violence. Why wouldn't they just keep him and hope that he can build off of what he did on the field this year? Hope he can, most importantly, shape up in his personal life and contribute to them next year.
Well, I guess to me, it's just kind of like a matter of how I feel about things. I really don't want a wife beater on the team.
No, I get
don't
that,
think there's
but-
any, and I don't think that the Yankees should do anything with Domingo German until he's found guilty or innocent, because you never know. Maybe he was innocent. I highly doubt it, but you still never know. If he was found guilty, to me, you just trade him, because you don't need that kind of a thing on the team. What I expect the Yankees to do, though, I expect them to do exactly what you're saying, James, and that's build around German, and hopefully he can bounce back from this and do the same thing he did this past year. Me as a fan, I really don't want that kind of a player on the team. You got to send a message. And Domingo German is a really good pitcher, don't get me wrong, but I think that some team would take him, because after all, he has a 4.07 ERA in a hitter's ballpark, won 18 games for his team. And I'll tell you what, when Domingo German is on, ain't nobody touch him. He's got one of the best curveballs in the game.
But if it's a
That's
matter
40
of
ERA.
morals there, then how can you say that and still know a guy like Aroldis Chapman's on your team? I mean,
Like I said, I was not a fan of the Yankees acquiring Aroldis Chapman either.
right, but he's still on the team, so obviously it can't be a question of morals, because the Yankees have proven that they're okay
I
with
know, that-
taking
that's
on
why I
wife
said-
beaters if they're talented
I
players.
also think the precedent is set in Major League Baseball that once you serve your time, that teams forget that and they just put you on the field. Look at Addy Russell and Addy Russell and Aroldis Chapman are the two guys that come to mind for me, and there's multiple other guys too. Stephen Wright.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Well, the thing is, though, going back to Chapman, though, as I said, I was not the biggest fan of the Yankees bringing him on the team. But it's just that, okay, number one, Domingo German is not on the level of Aroldis Chapman. He's not going to change the game like Chapman did. Okay,
No,
that's
you're
the
making
first
him
thing.
sound like he was a second ago.
I said he's a good pitcher. Don't get me wrong, but he's not. The Yankees.
He's got a 4 ERA.
He's not exactly. He's not great. I mean, the Yankees would be just fine without him. At the end of the day, I really don't want him on the team just because of what he's done. And to me, that's something that I simply can't forget. Do you know how many times people have came up to me and say, why do you support Aroldis Chapman, a wife beater? Imagine now we have two of them on the team. It's going to be ridiculous. I don't think it's worth it. I simply don't. And for a guy who has a 4 ERA and at times looks absolutely awful on the mound, granted, he does have his glimpses at times. I just don't think it's worth it. I don't know. That's just me. And I just don't like the idea of having wife beaters in the game of baseball.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, it's a reality that we have seen not just in baseball, but in multiple sports across professional sports, which is a shame, but like I said, it's the reality of it. If you're just tuning in here, talking about Domingo German and his recent suspension, if you want to call in, offer any thoughts on that or anything on the baseball world, that number is 202-319-5106, 202-319-5106. And leaving that conversation behind for a little bit, how about a little more of a pleasant one, and that is, of course, retirement of Royals manager Ned Yost, a absolutely fantastic career as the manager there in Kansas City, and I think he will be well missed by the city.
To simply put it, if you win a World Series in a small market like Kansas City, you did your job. And Ned Yost did his job.
He did his job. 2 pennants and a World Series, absolutely.
Did you guys hear that story about him talking, or who was it that was saying we should possibly trade a young?
That was
It was
JJ
Passan who reported that. It was JJ.
Yeah.
It was demote JJ Hardy and Ricky Weeks because they weren't ready at the time, and he said, no, put the losses on my back because I want these guys to develop for the future.
Yeah, he's just a guy that cares about the young guys. Like, look at how young of a team the Kansas City Royals are right now. Granted, the team is off right now, but no matter what, he decided to stick with this team and go through it all out. And even though he's kind of ending on a bad note, it's hard to forget how great of a manager he was in 2015 when they won the World Series. Made some tremendous decisions, and I thought he did a great job at that time.
He did a great job managing the bullpen in both those postseason runs.
Well, honestly, I don't even think you could say he's ending on a bad note. I mean, when you're handed a team with the talent level of the 2019 Kansas City
I'm just saying,
Royals.
like, if you look at the record, though.
Oh, yeah, well, obviously that, but I'm saying I'm not sure how much of that is a bad note for Ned Yost. I mean, it's
just on the team.
You could hand, Alex Cora or
Aaron
Boone. Aaron Boone, that other guy, yeah. Aaron Boone, you could hand them the same team. I don't think they're going to do much better, you know what I mean? So it's not necessarily a bad note for him. It's obviously disappointing because, he deserves a lot more.
That's the word I was looking for, disappointing.
At least I'm glad to see that it was retirement and not a firing because you've seen so many times these guys who have been with the team for so long and have led them to a World Series. I'm thinking off the top of my head as a Phillies fan, of course, Charlie Emanuel with us well after 2008 and through all that run, and then it came around 2014-15 when it started to be like, well, we need a change of face here, and it was kind of like a mutual letting go. It wasn't really a firing, and it sucks because the teams, they go through that. They have their great runs like the Royals did, like the Phillies did, like so many other teams did, but after a while you just have to move on. I'm glad to see that it wasn't a firing and it was just sort of a mutual agreement to just fade into the sunset.
On a retirement note, congrats to Bruce Bochy, who will be managing his final Major League game on Sunday with the Giants.
One of the finest managers we have ever seen in baseball.
Future Hall of Famer.
Without a doubt.
3-time World Series champion.
How many wins did he get again?
It's over 2,000,
I was
believe.
Saying well over. I mean,
well over that.
Like
with the Padres and the Giants, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely fantastic manager, Bruce Bochy. You can't forget what he did to start off this decade. World Series championships in 10, 12, and 14. Had some fantastic Giants teams, but did an even more fantastic job managing
I was
them.
going to say, to me, in 2012, that Giants team was not better than the Detroit Tigers. They were simply not better. A team with Victor Martinez, Miguel Cabrera, Prince Fielder, Justin Verlander, Max Scherzer, all those guys in their prime, and Bruce Bochy was able to take them down with Madison Bumgarner.
It was a sweep, I too believe, right?
It was a sweep, yeah.
It was, yeah.
And the bullpen being as bad as it was that year, because outside of Sergio Romo, was there really anything in that bullpen for San Francisco?
They had Jeremy Affeldt, who was pretty good as a lefty for them out of the pen versus lefties.
He was a lefty special, so he would just come in and get one out, though. But that's not.
They also had someone. They had another righty that I'm trying to remember. I don't exactly remember the 2012 Giants bullpen off the top of my head, but I know they had someone else who.
Wait, was Tim Hudson on that team?
No, that was 14.
No,
He was
that was
14.
Okay.
Yeah.
Going back to that series before we get to our next topic, I
Yeah.
think the biggest thing that played a role in the Tigers getting swept was their 8-day layoff, and the Giants only having 2 days off in between the World Series.
Correct, because who was it that they beat in the ALCS, right?
They swept the Yankees.
It was the Yankees. They swept the Yankees
the
and then
Giants
sat
came
there.
back from down 3-1 against the Cardinals.
That's right.
The Yankees did not deserve to lose that series, by the way. The umpire screwed us over.
They
Watch the
got
video.
swept.
Game 3.
But they got swept, though.
You know, I'm talking about game 3.
I know that.
In
Nick
game
Swisher
3,
play. You're going to
that
say the Nick Swisher play.
Yes, that was a bad call.
It was a bad call,
but
that doesn't change the reality that you guys got swept. That was one game.
It didn't change the series because we would have lost the series nevertheless. But in that play, honestly, shut down a rally. We had a rally coming up our sleeves, and that play alone just – the Yankees were not the same after that play, and that was in like the 8th inning, for goodness sake. So, you know, that killed us. That killed us that series.
No, that's very fair. Moving on now to another quick point I wanted to make before we get into that postseason discussion, and that is the number of 100-win and 100-loss teams we have this year. I think it's really remarkable to take a look at this, and this is something I was looking at the standings at earlier this week and was really marveling at, and that is that we have 300-win teams again, could potentially have 4. Right now it's the Yankees, Dodgers, and Houston, with the Twins potentially being able to reach that this week. But the more surprising thing is the appearance of 4 100-loss teams, that, of course, being the Marlins, the Tigers, the Royals, and the Orioles. And I just want to ask your guys' opinion here, and, of course, anyone listening as well, if you have any opinions, 202-319-5106 is that number. What's your opinions on if this is good or not for the game of baseball? We see so many teams in this tanking mindset. And I mean, just watching some of these teams year after year lose 100 games, and now 4 of them in a season, I don't see how that's healthy.
Look, the Orioles went 47-115 last year and finished 61 games behind the Red Sox, and this year they've won 52 games. Don't tell me they haven't improved. Do not tell me the Baltimore Orioles haven't improved.
Statistically speaking, they have improved.
I think.
Wait, timeout. Two notes. Number one, I think people need to give Austin Hayes some credit. Austin Hayes looks really good so far. Good outfielder. I really like him. And number two, I think Brand Hyde is. I think he's a really good manager. That's
when he's not fighting Chris Davis, yeah.
I think, well, you know that if you're in a position like Miami or Detroit or Kansas City or Baltimore, you know you have to tank and blow it up in order to succeed. Look at the Nationals. I know they haven't won any championships because of it, but they got Strasburg, they got Harper, they've won 4 division titles, made the playoffs last night, so they've had a good run. Look at the Houston Astros, were able to draft Springer, draft Bregman,
Altuve.
Well, they signed him.
They signed him. Correa. They were able to build their young nucleus around these draft picks because of their 100-loss seasons, and I think teams are looking at that. And to answer your question, is it good for the sport? No, I would say it's not good for the sport in terms of the product that's being put out there and teams not signing the best possible players. But in terms of building a winner, 4 or 5 years down the road, it's good for the organizations, and teams know they have to do that. You can't just be middle of the ground and expect to be fine.
So here's my question to you then. Obviously, it's not great for the sport with, being a fan of that team and watching them lose 100 games. So in that aspect, because, as you pointed out, it's so effective to do this method of tanking, is there something that the sport needs to do as a whole to change this? Because, we saw this in basketball where so many teams were tanking and stuff like that, so they instituted the lottery where you don't just automatically get the first pick by being the worst record in the league. You still have to go through the whole lottery and, you have the greatest chance of getting it, but you don't have it guaranteed. Does baseball need to do something like that?
Well, the thing is, I think there are teams out there that are trying to be bad, but I don't know if they realize how bad they're going to be. Obviously the Orioles knew they were going to be very, very bad, and the Tigers. But you don't the Royals. I don't know if they knew going in they'd have a 105 loss season or whatever they're on pace for right now.
Right.
So I don't know, and it's very hard to prove that sort of stuff that you're purposefully trying to tank and lose 100 games. Obviously you can point to not signing free agents or not signing whatever, but also these teams are all teams that have small markets, so they need guys that are under club control for multiple years. So they're obviously not going to be going after the Harpers and the Machados and the Arenados and those class of free agents. So I think when you look at it, it's at the end of the day it will be better for the sport because guys like Adley Rutschman, guys like Bobby Witt Jr., the future of the game, they'll be here in 2 or 3 years and they'll be making an impact for these teams and reviving these small market fan bases again.
So that's just how the sport is going to be.
That's
just
how
a slower process.
It's a constant cycle because look at the Astros at the beginning of this decade. They were awful.
Terrible.
And now look at them.
3 straight 100-loss seasons, I believe.
And now they have 3 straight 100-win seasons, a perennial powerhouse with Bregman, Altuve, Correa, Springer, Yordan Alvarez. So I think you're always going to have teams that will be bad and you're always going to have teams that will be very, very good. So it just depends on which teams are doing it.
And like you said, it's just remarkable because that's in the same decade that those things have happened. 3 straight 100 losses and 3 straight 100 wins. It's ridiculous. So I think it just speaks to what the process is, like we said, how effective it is. And you know what? If you can do it right, a lot of people and a lot of front offices think that it's worth it to have 3-4 really bad years in exchange for a World Series. I'm not sure I can argue with that logic.
Look, unless you're the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Yankees or the Cardinals, you're not going to be able to not go through this process to some extent. It might not be 100 losses, but you're going to have to go through some losing seasons because those are the 4 teams that are, and the Chicago Cubs that are baseball rich, have rich tradition, have money, have a huge fan base, all that sort of stuff.
Now, I do agree with most of the things that you guys both said, but to me, it's a mix of both good and bad for the game of baseball. You look at the teams who have over 100 wins, and they are some of the biggest markets in baseball, obviously the Yankees and Dodgers, and last year the Boston Red Sox. That's really good for the sport because those fans are going to be intuited in the game, and they're going to want to see their teams win.
And then look at the postseason. We had the 108-win Red Sox against the 100-win Yankees, and then 108-win Red Sox against the 103-win Astros.
Exactly.
So you have the best teams going at it. So you know that whoever wins the World Series that year actually deserves it because you're facing the best of the best. It's not like you're facing fluff in the first round, and you're like, oh, they cakewalk their way to a World Series. The winner of you knew the winner of the AL was going to win the World Series because that's where all the competition was.
And I agree with that. The part where it is bad for baseball is when you look at the average regular season game. As a Yankee fan, I saw the Yankees play the Orioles a few times this year, and I'll be the first to say that, honestly, I even had a hard time watching the game because it was just pathetic how bad the Orioles were. And, I'm loving seeing my favorite team destroy the Orioles, but it's gotten so bad to the point where it's like, why bother watching this? Do you guys remember that one time when the Astros faced the Orioles back-to-back days, and they scored how many runs in 2 days? Or no, was it the Mariners? They scored like 30-something runs in 2 days?
Well, actually, that was one against the Mariners, and the other one was against the A's.
Okay, well,
back-to-back. But they scored about, I think it was like almost 40 runs in 2 days.
And they scored 23 against Baltimore that one game you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's the Yordan Alvarez home run in the 9th. Yeah, I remember that.
The point that I'm making is that's not good for the game of baseball because obviously super fans like all you guys listening and ourselves are going to watch the games no matter what happens. However, you will have those average fans that will turn on the game, see, okay, this is a complete blowout. There's no reason to bother watching this game, and they're going to turn the channel off. So going back to my point, it's good because you have big market teams that are succeeding right now. As I said, the Red Sox last year, the Yankees, the Dodgers, and to some extent the Astros are starting to become a big market. That's good for the game of baseball. But then you also have games where it's like the Blue Jays against the Orioles or the Royals against the Orioles. I remember I was watching an Orioles-Royals game a couple weeks ago, and it looked like there was nobody at the game.
Well, because there wasn't.
Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make. That's awful for baseball.
Well, okay, to be fair with that point, I don't want to get into a whole discussion here about this because I could go on forever about this, but attendance is down in baseball like throughout every team pretty much.
Yeah,
that's not just a problem of it being a bad team.
Being a baseball fan is kind of dying out. I don't think it's just like if you're a casual fan of the Orioles or the Royals, you're not going to tune in regardless.
Right. Well, especially with there being 162 games.
That's what I'm saying. Like you'll tune in occasionally, but like if you might tune into 10, 15 games a year, and if you're a 100 loss team, that might change to 2 or 3, and you'll still go to 1 or 2 games at the park. But at the end of the day, I think just being a baseball fan is dying out.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think you're completely right about that.
Well, you just look at the numbers, and obviously, currently baseball does not stand well compared to sports like basketball and football. However, if you do look at the postseason, the ratings go through the roof. So it's not like it's an ongoing problem, because when it comes to the playoffs, fans just tend to tune in, and perhaps that could be because of the big markets succeeding right now, and that's what's they're going to draw in the most fans. But at the end of the day, I think that yes, for the regular season there is an attendance problem. Perhaps the season's too long. It seems like nowadays every pitcher is blowing their arms out, like Sonny Gray just did, for goodness sakes, and maybe that is the problem, and maybe if you do lessen the games, then more fans are going to start tuning in. But I don't like the idea of that, because there's so many allocates and records that are never going to be broken. But to the average baseball fan, they're going to want to shorten the season. But to super fans like all of us, we're not going to want to do it. So it's kind of like, where is the middle ground in that instance? What do you do?
Yeah, like I said, I don't want to get into a huge discussion about that, but will quickly say that I think that Rob Manfred's approach, again, not getting into a huge discussion here, but Rob Manfred's approach, I feel like, since he's become the commissioner of baseball, has been, let's appeal to the casual fan. And I get that. But at the same time, when you do that, you alienate your biggest, most faithful crowd, which is the super fans, as Robbie was saying. And if you do that, if you take away 162 games, you're already doing the thing with the 3-batter limit next year. You just keep doing crap like this, and I'm telling you what, you're going to alienate the people who care the most about the sport even more, and I think that's just absolutely sickening. But enough of that, as we do want to get into our postseason discussion here. So we're going to take a quick commercial break here. When we come back, we'll hop into that, and we're going to lead off with a discussion about the AL wildcard race. Robbie has some words on the Rays, and we have some discussion as well about those 3 teams that are in the mix. So we will be right back here on Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. Stay tuned. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nation's Pastime in the nation's capital. I'm your host, Andrew Snaith, here with my co-host, Robbie Cruz and James Higgins, and we are going to jump right into that postseason discussion that we started last week and are going to continue right now. But before we do that, let's go ahead and hear the current standings for that AL wildcard race.
The Oakland A's own the top wildcard spot, and they have a half-game lead over the Rays, and Cleveland is a half-game behind the Rays for the second wildcard spot. Oakland is 94-63, Tampa Bay is 94-64, and the Indians are 93-64. Right now, the Rays are up 2-0 against the Yankees, and the White Sox are beating the Indians 3-0. So those are 2 big scores there that we need to keep an eye on. Oakland plays tonight at 10 o'clock against the Angels.
All right, so that is definitely going to want to keep our eye on there. And with that said, let's talk about that AL wildcard race. It's been absolutely crazy between the Rays, A's, and Indians right there. All of them within a half a game of each other. Right now, the spots, of course, like you said, owned by the Rays and the A's, with the Indians half a game behind. If you have any thoughts or anything you want to chime in for while we are talking about the playoff discussion here, that number to call in is 202-319-5106. That's 202-319-5106. We'd love to have you on the show and hear what you have to say. So one of the questions I want to start with when it comes to 2 of these teams, and that's the Rays and the A's, is if those 2 end up being the wildcard teams, who do you guys think is starting those games? Are we going with actual starters, or are we doing the opener?
PED user Frankie Montas. No, I'm just kidding. He made his return tonight, so that's why. Or he's making his return tonight. That's why I would go with Manaea.
Yeah, he's been fantastic.
I don't know like how stretched out he is, but like in terms of just talent wise for the A's, you'd have to strongly consider Sean Manaea.
I got Sean Manaea versus Charlie Morton for the wild card game. If that
you think they go Morton? They don't do the opener thing. Then?
No.
Morton's pitching tonight, so that would line him up to pitch next Wednesday.
Oh wow!
Yeah, the thing with Charlie Morton though that I don't think people are talking about enough is just how he's almost been mediocre recently. He's been back to he's been back to average. I mean, granted, it's the end of the season. His arm is probably starting to wear down. And he's still a terrific pitcher. Do not get me wrong. Charlie Morton hasn't been that great recently, but I don't think that's going to affect him in the playoffs.
Has a no-hitter against the Yankees tonight so far through 4.
To be fair, the Yankees, you got me there. The Yankees are obviously not. To me, I don't think they really care about winning right now. I fully expect the Astros to get the best record in baseball. I think last week I said that I expected the Yankees to get the best record in baseball. I look like an absolute clown right now, but you know what? At the end of the day, I still think we're winning the World Series. However, I do anticipate the Astros getting the best record in baseball this year.
Yeah, considering last night as we watched live Corey Guerin being called into the game, the first thing you said was, this game is over.
Okay, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. The Rays are out there right now throwing the best guns that they've got. And then you look at what the Yankees are throwing out there.
Corey Guerin.
That's my point. The Yankees are clearly not trying to win. Okay, here's my question. Do you think that the Yankees really care about getting the best record in baseball right now?
I mean, I don't really think I don't think they care or don't care. I think they're just playing games.
That's what I'm saying.
It doesn't really matter.
Because to me, I watch and see what they're doing, and they bring these random guys out there, and right now they're literally auditioning people, having CeCe Sabathia and J-Happ come out of the bullpen to see how they do, and if they feel trustworthy, if they feel enough trust in them for the playoffs. I mean, to me, the Yankees they're not that worried about winning and losing these games. That's just how it is, plain and simple.
Do you guys think the Indians will overtake one of those two teams for a wild card spot? Because looking ahead to the weekend, they play the Nationals. And both those teams need a win in order, because the Nationals need to ensure home field, and then the Indians need to win to try to get in the wild card spot. Tampa Bay plays Toronto, and Oakland plays Seattle. So Cleveland has the toughest schedule this weekend, but obviously they have the horses in the rotation to do it, led by Shane Bieber, who has had a phenomenal season for them, and I would assume he would start the wild card game for them.
Yeah, no,
Going back to like if Cleveland makes it, they have to start Bieber, I would assume, over Kluber, over anyone else. He's been their best pitcher this year.
Here's my thing. I don't think the Indians can do it. I personally don't
because
think
because of the schedule this weekend.
I don't think they're doing it either.
It's not even. It's not. I think honestly, you know what? It is the schedule, because not only are they playing a great team that also needs to win this weekend, they're playing in an NL ballpark. They're losing the DH. That's a completely different game for AL manager. And of course, I don't think that's anything Terry Francona can't handle.
Tito knows how to manage.
That's what I'm saying. He knows what he's doing. But still, it's a completely different thing now, and he's going to be playing in the NL for these 3 games. And I think the big thing is, like you said, James, they're playing a team that also needs to win games. So.
Yeah, I would probably agree. I really don't see the Indians getting that second playoff spot. Andrew, I know that you're going to be ecstatic after hearing this, but I fully expect it to be Rays and Athletics in the playoffs.
And I've been saying Rays A's since July, so I would absolutely love for them to be the wild card game.
So
for no other reason.
You've been saying too?
It'd be fantastic.
Well, if Cleveland does get into the wild card game, Bieber has the most starts in the American League this year of 7+ innings and 2 earned runs or fewer. So he can carry them in that one game. That's definitely something.
No, Shane Bieber is 100% elite. And don't get me wrong, Shane Bieber deserves to be in the Cy Young discussion. I obviously understand that it looks like it's going to be between Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. I expect Verlander to get it, but
Cole.
You think Cole's getting it?
Cole.
Well,
Garrett Cole already struck out over 300 people.
I'm still going to say Verlander's getting it. But at the end of the day, my point is, to me, Shane Bieber should be 3rd in the Cy Young contention.
Not Morton?
You don't think?
To me,
okay.
I don't know. Morton's recent struggles.
I don't disagree. I think Bieber should definitely belong up there. I just, for most of the season, Morton has carried his weight, so he's going to get votes.
Yeah, no, he's definitely going to get votes. But to me, I'm still sticking by Shane Bieber as my number 3 vote. But
Giolito.
He'll be up there. He'll be top 5. He'll be top 5.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see. Yeah, he'll probably be 5th or something like that.
Fantastic bounce back season for him.
But yeah, no, going back to the Athletics and Indians point. I don't see the Indians getting that spot. I fully expect it to be a Rays Athletics or wild card game in Oakland this season. I think it's going to be a great series, or just one game actually. And then I think that whoever's going to win that game is going to end up facing the Houston Astros, and they're going to get destroyed. Probably a sweep or something like that, for goodness sakes.
Since we're going to be broadcasting live during the game next week, if that is the game, I will take Oakland in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And jumping leagues now to the National League. If it is Nationals Brewers, I'll take the Nationals if it's in D.C. If it's in Milwaukee, I think it's a toss-up. But Max Scherzer is the difference. And did you see Davey Martinez, what he said about the Nationals' plan for that game?
I did not. No, what was it?
I believe he plans on having all 4 starters available. Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin, and...
That's very. But is he starting Scherzer though for sure?
They haven't said, but he's on pace. He said it was Max's day.
I would not. Am
I the only one that thinks that they should start either Patrick Corbin or Steven Strasburg?
No, I think they should too. I mean, Max Scherzer is not himself. I mean, like I said last night, if you're giving up multi-home run games to Brad freaking Miller, no disrespect to my boy off the Phillies bench, but if you're doing that, there's something's not right with him. And it's not just that. I'm using that as a very extreme example, but he's been off all year, it seems like. Well, not all year, but since he's come back from the injury. I mean.
Yeah, and he probably didn't heal fully from the back injury, honestly. To me, if I were if I were Dave Martinez, what I would do is, I know Andrew disagrees with me. I don't know how you feel about this, James, but I would start Patrick Corbin and then have him go 5 or 6 innings, see how he does, and then after that you can bring in Max Scherzer for 2 or 3 innings, and then you bring in Daniel Hudson. Then, if you win that game, you go into the division series against the Dodgers with Steven Strasburg starting game 1. And I feel somewhat confident with that because Steven Strasburg is incredibly elite. People need to give him some more respect.
He's going to opt out.
Here's the thing. The Nationals, they obviously don't have the bullpen, so they need to construct that one game. They need to not focus on the Dodgers that one game. They just need to focus on winning that game because they do have the starting pitching to go toe to toe with the Dodgers and potentially beat them. Strasburg doesn't get this is a side point on Strasburg. He had godlike expectations coming in and he hasn't met them, but he's been a very, very good pitcher in this league for the past decade. So he deserves some respect. Second, going to your point about bringing in Scherzer in relief, the last time the Nationals did that in the postseason, he coughed up the lead to the Dodgers in Game 5 in 2016 and lost it. So I don't know if he has that mentality. Like, obviously, it's a Game 7 mentality. It'd be different, but I don't know if he has if that would work. It backfired on him last time. I don't know if it would backfire on them again.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I see a very big argument for starting either Corbin or Strasburg in that wild card game because they've both been great in the second half, especially Strasburg. But the thing with Scherzer is that he's a top 3 pitcher in the game, if not the best pitcher in the game. And so even though he hasn't been fully healthy in the second half and hasn't been vintage Scherzer, he's going to go out there and give it his all in a wild card game. And imagine if Strasburg or Corbin goes out there and gets shelled. Imagine the backlash you faced. You had Max Scherzer there and you didn't start him. Like, why would you not? So I think you have to ride with Scherzer. You have to ride with your Cy Young candidate and just say, here it is. This is the season. This is what we've been preparing for since day 1 of spring training. Take it or leave it.
Well, I was talking to Andrew about this morning, and I kind of referred back to the 2017 wild card game for the Yankees against the Minnesota Twins. Luis Severino goes out there and absolutely gets shelled in the first inning. They take him out after just getting 1 out, and then they bring in Chad Green. Granted, the Nationals don't have that kind of a bullpen.
Okay,
but if the Nationals do something similar, and instead of bringing somebody in out of the bullpen, they bring in a guy like Max Scherzer, then that kind of eliminates that argument at that point.
Well, no, but I understand you have to manage the wild card game like a Game 7, but then you shoot yourself in the foot for the Dodgers series because you don't have anyone to go toe-to-toe.
Well, you don't have to bring in Steven Strasburg in the game. If Patrick Corbin let's say Patrick Corbin throws 3 innings and he gives up 5 runs, you take him out and then you bring in Max Scherzer, and if he's lights on that day, keep him going until he can no longer go on. Then after him, the back end of the bullpen, that's not great, but it's good enough to do the job. Daniel Hudson's pretty legit.
Hudson's been good, but that's about it in the second half.
So you want to try to get it to Daniel Hudson. So essentially, okay, what's wrong with bringing Anibal Sanchez? I mean,
no, I don't have an issue with bringing Sanchez.
So if you throw Corbin for 3 innings, and say he does bad, you bring in Scherzer for 4 innings and he does decently, then bring in Anibal Sanchez after that. I mean, to me,
here's the thing.
Do the job.
I think what they're going to do is they're going to start Scherzer and they're just going to ride it out and see how he does. And then if he gets in trouble, you have emergency backup plan of Strasburg or Corbin, and then try to get it over to Hudson. But I think Scherzer will go at least 5 or 6 in that game. Now, flipping sides to the Brewers, they will have a bullpen type approach, I think, to this game because they're probably going to start Chase Anderson, and then who knows from there. Hader's going to throw 2 or 3 innings. They're going to have him rested for that game. I can guarantee you they will have him rested for that game. So he'll be able to go 2 or 3. And then who knows at what point they'll bring him in. Remember last year in Game 7 in the LCS, they brought him in the 3rd or 4th inning, and they just let him ride it out. So Hader can come in at any point in the game and put the game on lockdown for a few innings. He's gotten rid of his home run issues that plagued him in July and August. He's been much, much better in September. The Brewers can turn it over to the bullpen and see what happens.
I think that the difference, though, 2 points. Going back to Max Scherzer, I know, James, you mentioned that Scherzer, obviously, last time he came in out of relief, he got shelled by the Dodgers. To me, this Brewers team is nowhere near what that Dodger team was at. And I know that this is just a hypothetical, but I think Max Scherzer is one of the clutchest pitchers in the game. He's got fierce in his eyes, and he's one of the most competitive people in baseball.
Right, that's why you have to start him.
Right, but or I'm saying if you bring him in out of relief. I mean, either works, but...
Well, also, during this Nationals run, Strasburg has been their best pitcher in the postseason. He was their best pitcher against the Cubs in 2017. He pitched well against the Dodgers in 2016. So, if you're looking at postseason track records since Scherzer's joined the Nationals, Strasburg's been the best pitcher.
Yeah, there's honestly no wrong answer with who you go in Game 1. But now let's go back to the Brewers' point.
Yeah, speaking of those Brewers real quick, though, can we just talk about the fact that the Brewers are as of Monday, 10-2 since they lost Yelich. I'm
That's
sure it's
insane.
even more now. But not only that the fact that they are now in possession of the second wild card, and at this time last week, and I know this stat has been said a lot over the course of the internet this week, but if you haven't heard it, this is a fantastic one. The Cubs' chances to make the playoffs this time last week was 77%. Tonight is their elimination game. Their chance is below 1% to make the playoffs now, and all that needs to happen is a Cubs loss or a Brewers win, and the Cubs are out of postseason contention. I think that's ridiculous, not only for the Cubs' collapse, which we could go on about, but the fight from the Milwaukee Brewers after losing their best player.
The Brewers won last night, and they have won 16 of their last 18 entering tonight.
That's ridiculous.
And the Cubs have had a September collapse of epic proportions. It's been unbelievable. In a matter of a week, they went from in the playoff contention of both the Central and in the wild card, being right in the thick of the race, probably getting a playoff spot, to almost eliminated.
Well, let's go back to the Brewers bullpen, for example. So I know that you guys were saying that they'd probably start Chase Anderson. To me, I think that they could end up starting Zach Davies. It could be, Brandon Woodruff. There's really no wrong answer here. But the difference between last year's bullpen and this year's bullpen is that the Brewers bullpen simply just isn't strong enough to me. Last year, obviously, having Jeremy Jeffries was really great, but he was so bad this season that he couldn't even make it through the full season. So I know that you guys are saying that you come in and bring in, Josh Hader for 3 innings or something like that after their starting pitcher will throw 5 innings or something like that. But outside of Josh Hader, that bullpen's not very good. That bullpen is honestly one of the worst out of all the contending teams right now.
They're not going to start Woodruff because he's not stretched out enough. He hasn't been back long enough. I think he's only made 1 or 2 starts.
So but that's not the point. The point is that their bullpen's not good enough to the point where they can just throw Josh Hader and then bring somebody in right after that.
My point is they could use Woodruff and then go to Hader.
So you're saying that
you start Anderson or Davies, and then you go, and then you see how long they get you, and you can go then Woodruff for a couple, and then Hader for a couple.
So kind of like almost similar to what the Nationals would be doing essentially. Only they would bring in Hader, and the Nationals would bring in.
Well, I don't think the Nationals are going to do it. I just think that's their contingency plan.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's hypothetical.
No, they are going to start Scherzer, and he's probably going to go 6 or 7, and then hand it over to the bullpen.
Can we give Drew Pomeranz some credit, though? That man has been terrific out of the bullpen since coming over to the Milwaukee Brewers.
He really has.
And I know, James, you're probably not the biggest fan of Pomeranz considering what he did for the Red Sox the last 2.5 years or so. But, he's been great for the Brewers.
Look. Carabas interviewed him this week for Section 10. They made amends. I'll make amends for Drew. He was great in 2017. I was actually a fan of him, but he was awful last year. And
I think that's putting it lightly.
Oh, he was beyond awful.
Yeah, there you go.
He wasn't even good enough to pitch in an 18-inning World Series game. I wanted to send him to the sun. But Drew, congrats. Best of luck to you with the Brewers. And congrats on actually doing something for a winner.
Now, here's my question, though. This is just a random question that just came to my head.
Sure, let's hear it.
Drew Pomeranz is a free agent at the end of the season.
Okay.
Andrew, do you take a chance on him if you're the Phillies?
All right. Over the past 2 weeks, you've asked me like every single free agent possible.
Yes, I have.
Hey, are the Phillies going to take a free chance on this guy? And I know you're doing it because I said a while back that this offseason the Phillies need to pursue any and all pitching because it's that bad. We have Aaron Nola, Hector Neris, and nobody.
Just so you guys know.
And to answer that question, yes. Why the heck not? I'll take a chance on Drew Pomeranz. I'll take a chance on anybody.
That's
My
actually
goodness,
not
anyone's
true.
better than Jared Hughes and Blake Parker and Juan Nicasio, and these names just make me cringe as I say them.
Well, actually, no, that's not true. You won't take anybody because I think earlier this week I said if CC Sabathia were to come out of retirement, would you take him on the Phillies?
CC Sabathia is done. And I'm telling you right now, you've heard it first right here, Nation's Pastime and Nation's Capital exclusive guarantee from Andrew Snaith. CC Sabathia will enter into a postseason game for the Yankees and get absolutely shelled, and that will be his last memory that we have of him as a Yankee.
Here's my thing, though. Okay,
he's done.
If you're coming in as a reliever, it's almost difficult to get shelled, especially when you have a bullpen as good as the Yankees. Because hold up, say Sabathia gives up 2 or 3 straight hits.
Oh, is he confirmed to be in the bullpen, by the way?
No, not yet. But
okay.
we're
assume he is.
Hypothetically, let's say he is.
Hypothetically, I'm saying not being in the starting rotation. I'm saying that he doesn't even make the roster.
I'm saying, okay, let's say he gets put in the bullpen. If CC Sabathia comes out of the bullpen and he gives up 3 consecutive hits, Aaron Boone is going to take him out of the game. And to me, giving up 3 straight hits is not getting shelled.
Okay, well,
There's no chance he's going to get shelled in the postseason because
he's going to get shelled.
No,
well,
because-
we'll wait and see. But
There's no chance he's going to get shelled because he's not good enough to make the roster.
Yeah.
no. Well,
Thank you, James.
No, like if you're the Yankees, why put him on the roster?
No,
why not
that's
use
what I'm
that
saying.
spot
Why
for somebody
put him on
else?
the roster?
Like I'm not trying to hate that. I'm just being serious. Like why wouldn't you use that roster spot for somebody
so
else?
if you don't put Sabathia on the roster, who do you put on it instead?
Anyone could be better than CC Sabathia. Okay, maybe not anyone, but at this point, you just be doing it because his name is CC Sabathia. He hasn't proven this season that he's worth that. If anybody else with any other name had the season that he just did, they wouldn't be on the postseason
Okay,
roster.
but to be fair, he's 39 years old. He's a future Hall
That's
of
what
Famer,
I'm
and
saying.
he's about to retire.
He's 39. He's a future Hall of Famer. That's great. Nothing away from CC Sabathia. He doesn't belong on a postseason roster. He's not good enough. He's not going to be good enough. And I'm telling you right now, if he makes it and he enters the game, he's going to get shelled.
I mean, I'm not opposed to the idea of not putting Sabathia in on the postseason roster. However, I do think it's important to remember that leadership is something that's incredibly important come postseason time. Remember in 2016, Jason Hayward literally single-handedly fired up the Chicago Cubs during that rain delay. And what happened after that rain delay?
I mean, Sabathia can be on the bench helping them.
Yeah,
that's
he
what
can be in the
that's what
dugout. Let him be in the dugout and talk.
Yeah, if that's the case, I'm perfectly fine with it. And
I'm pretty sure that happened with the Dodgers. Didn't Chase Utley was god awful and didn't make one of the postseason rosters one of those years. I don't remember which one it was, but he was still in the dugout because everyone knew he was the heart of the team.
Yeah,
and he was firing
and
everyone
honestly,
up, and he was the leader presence. And
I think that's a really good role for CC Sabathia.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who they're going to put in place of him because at the end of the
Corey
day,
Guerin. I'm joking.
no, we're not
Corey.
putting in Corey Guerin in that. He's not going to be on the postseason
Corey
roster.
Guerin's going to be the new meme of this show now.
Well, the point is though that if you don't put Sabathia in on the postseason roster, I'm not really sure who they would put in, considering their pitching is that bad. They really don't have many options. Maybe I can't even think of anybody that they would put. Like they'd probably put in a hitter over another pitcher from that. Like
Which
maybe
I still
Clint
think
Frazier.
is Still more valuable than him. All right, but enough aside about the Yankees. There, we have talked extensively about the postseason preview for them. But I want to talk about another team in the NL real quick that is absolutely firing on all cylinders, just like the Brewers have, and that of course is the St. Louis Cardinals, coming off a fantastic 4-game sweep of the Chicago Cubs this weekend. It was quite a sight to see the Cubs just absolutely collapse. Craig Kimbrell to just implode like he did. The Cardinals are looking like a fantastic team.
My
right now.
preseason World Series pick was St. Louis.
Yeah, that is true.
Hey James, so how are you feeling now that the Red Sox didn't bring back Craig
I gotta
Kimbrell? Do
imagine
you
you're
still want
feeling
him back,
pretty good
or-
about that, aren't
I
you?
mean,
I never wanted him
You
back.
never wanted
I
him?
just
Okay.
wanted them to have a closer to replace Kimbrel, but I wasn't. I knew Kimbrel wasn't what he used to be, and you could see that in the second half last year, and then
you can see it in the World Series.
Yeah.
nobody ever saw him being this bad though. There was
No,
no.
I didn't think he'd be this bad either.
No. But I didn't necessarily want him back.
Right.
I wanted them to replace him with somebody, but it didn't mean I wanted Kimbrel to come back.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take just about anyone in that Red Sox bullpen
Jack
over him
Flaherty
right
for the St. Louis Cardinals been
Yes.
unreal. .97
Yes.
ERA in the second half.
I believe that's the lowest ERA in the second half ever by a pitcher.
Yeah, I think that's lower than Arrieta's.
Yeah, it is.
Goldschmidt's been hitting the ball real well.
What, do you have 3 home runs in his return?
Yeah, to Arizona.
Yeah.
Carpenter with the clutch home run in Wrigley this weekend. Yachty. Paul DeYoung has had a good season, all-star shortstop. Can't believe they only had one all-star, looking back at it now.
I know, that was insane.
Well, at the deadline, nobody thought that they were a team that was even going to be that great. And if we remember, this team did not make a single deadline deal. And here
How
they
about
are.
Tommy Edman?
Tommy Edman as well.
Tommy Edman's been good for
What
them.
a presence for them. Absolutely. Cardinals just defying all odds. Like I said, not even making a single midseason acquisition. And here they are potentially about to win this.
Waka
AL
left with an
Central
injury
division.
today, by the way.
Yeah, Waka is done for the season, I believe.
Yeah.
So no Michael Waka on the postseason roster.
I mean, think about it though. Is that really hurting the St. Louis
I
Cardinals?
don't think it's hurting
It's
them that
actually
much,
helping
no.
them probably.
Has he been? I don't think he's been that bad this year. Has
Michael
he?
Waka.
I know he's been bad in previous
His
years.
ERA's 4.8.
Okay, so he's not
ERA's
great. He
4.8.
hasn't been great. He has not been fantastic. So yeah, I don't think that's exactly hurting the Cardinals.
He's been awful in your words because CC Sabathia has a 4.95 ERA, and you talk about Sabathia like he's the worst in baseball.
Okay,
So he's
I
not
do.
that much worse than Michael Waka.
All I'm saying is if I had a choice between two of them, I'd be putting Michael Waka on my postseason roster. But
Okay,
anyway,
Michael Waka isn't 39 years old.
Exactly.
I know you take Michael Waka obviously, but
All right, so how about we talk about another front runner here? Obviously, the front runner from the NL, and that's the Dodgers. And a point that I want to make to the Dodgers, actually a point that I was just talking about with James the other night, and that is their window closing and the fact that I don't think they can go another year not winning the World Series.
Okay, I don't know what you're going to do if you lose a third straight World
That's
Series.
what I'm saying.
I didn't know what they were going to do after last year, but I also wouldn't say their window is closing because they have Gavin Lux, Will Smith, and Dustin May.
Well, the window can be open as long as they can. If they can't finish the job, what's
no,
the matter?
I know. No, I know. But Bellinger's still under team control for a while.
Yeah.
They have Turner for another year, Seager for another few years. They have obviously the new young core of Lux, May, and Smith. They have Bueller. They're going to have Kershaw.
Urias.
Yeah, Urias. They are Alex Verdugo. They have a young nucleus. They just need to finish the job at this point because they're too talented to not have a World Series.
That's what I'm saying. This team is so talented, and they just can't get the job done.
Who knows what's going to happen to Ryu after this season if they're going to re-sign him or
I don't
not.
even
We'll
think
see.
they will. Will they be able to give him what he's going to demand? And look, I've said this multiple times on air. Whatever Ryu gets, he's not going to be worth that much. And I don't think he's ever going to have a year like this. But he's still going to command an awful lot, and I don't think the Dodgers can be able to give him that.
You know, Hyun-Jin Ryu has always been a very good pitcher. It's just always been a matter of health for him. His career ERA, I think it's in the low 3s, so Ryu can really pitch. It's just a matter of health with him. In the last 2 seasons, last year and a half, he's been incredibly healthy, and that's why everybody's been talking about Ryu. At the end of the day, he's always been a really good pitcher.
But he's never had a season like this before.
He's never had a season like this, but he's always been a good pitcher. Not like great, but he's
also not exactly young either, is he?
He was born in 1988 or 1987. Yeah, 1987.
What is he, 29? He's going to be 30?
He's 32.
He's 32. Exactly, he's 32. So that's, I mean, if I'm a team looking at him and I'm saying this is a 32-year-old who had just had the best year in his career, I'm not giving him a 6-7 year deal. I mean, we saw what happened. Arrieta only got 3, and I'm pretty sure all Philadelphia's regretting that. Darvish, Darvish has been good this year, but at first, in the 6 more years of that as well, I mean.
Well, the Jacob deGrom deal is looking pretty good for the Mets, though.
Okay, we're 1 year into that, and he's, 31?
Well, we were bashing that contract on the show last year.
Yeah, we were,
fair.
and honestly, I still don't think it's going to turn out that great, but it's just giving old pitchers like that, especially pitchers, I just don't think that's good for long term.
DeGrom will be fine because he was a converted shortstop. He's got a lot of bullets in that arm.
All right, that's fair. I can see.
Wait, he played shortstop?
He did.
I didn't realize that. Remember, Kenley Jansen played catcher when he was a prospect.
Catcher. There actually exists a video of Kenley Jansen throwing out. Oh my goodness, I don't remember who it was, but another MLB player at the World Baseball Classic in 2010, I believe, when he was the catcher. 2009. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. It was 2009 when he was the catcher for the Dominican. No, where is he
From?
Where is he from?
Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Corco,
Netherlands.
yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah. So yeah, hey, that's a pretty cool fact about that. But just actually, that's a pretty good point that I want to talk about with the Dodgers as well. How are we looking with that bullpen for this postseason? Because
that's a problem.
Do you trust Kenley Jansen if it's a 4-3 game in the 9th and you got to send someone in to win? And if you don't trust Kenley Jansen, who do you trust in that bullpen?
Honestly, for me, I might have to consider putting in a starting pitcher at that point. I don't think that anybody in that bullpen is trustworthy. I don't know about you, James, but okay, let's break it down. The Joe Kelly signing has been awful. Jansen has been absolutely. He's blown the most saves in baseball this season.
Has he? I think that's right.
Yeah, he's blown.
What's he at, 7 or 6?
7 or 8. It's gotten really bad. So his cutter's not the same. His fastball velocity's down. And obviously, I said Joe Kelly's been pathetic. Pedro Baez is awful. So at that point, you got to bring in a starting pitcher because their starting pitching is so strong. I don't know, James. What do you think?
It would really depend on where you are in the series, but all it takes is one hot month.
Yeah.
Kelly was very inconsistent for Boston last year, but he had a great month of October, and that's what netted him the contract. So if you're the Dodgers, you have to hope that Kelly can turn it on again for the month of October, that Jansen can lock in and turn it on for October, that you can get a contribution out of Baez, and that you hope that they lock in and finally deliver a World Series to LA.
Yeah, because like I said, I really don't think there's an excuse at this point for the Dodgers team to keep blowing talented year after year like this and not being able to finish the job. And I know you said this to start this conversation, James, but honestly, what do you do as the Dodgers front office if they go to a 3rd straight World Series and lose to whether it be the Yankees, Astros, or whoever? What do you do? I just don't know what you do in that spot. Because you're doing everything right because you keep making it there. You just can't finish the job.
You sign Garrett Cole.
Okay.
No, well, I don't know. They'd probably they just signed Roberts to the extension, but losing 3 World Series, at some point, that
You gotta
falls
do
on the
something,
manager.
yeah.
How about Aroldis Chapman possibly opting out this offseason?
Well, okay. What are you saying for the Dodgers?
Yeah, the Dodgers could look to sign a guy like him.
Well, if they didn't want him before, what the allegations? I don't know. I guess maybe. But
We'll see.
I don't
We'll
think he's
see.
gonna opt out.
Let's let October play out.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what happens first because the Dodgers have to make it there and lose first. So.
You know, I'm one of those fans that believes that the Dodgers will make the World Series, and I think that they're going to lose. Actually, I think that they're going to lose again. Whether it's the Yankees, the Astros, the Twins, the Rays, Athletics, whoever it is, I expect. If it's the Yankees or the Astros that come out of the American League, I expect them to beat the Dodgers. However, if it's a team like the Twins or Rays, I fully expect the Dodgers to beat them.
The Dodgers have the talent to beat anyone. It's just a matter of going out there and doing it. Like I think the only team that has more talent than them is Houston. But they can still beat Houston. I'm not saying they can't beat Houston, but I'm saying in terms of talent, and it's just about execution. They have the talent to go out there and win it.
Yeah, it definitely.
Bellinger just needs to lock back in. They need guys to be healthy. They have the talent to do it. They have the pitching to do it. They have a good offense. Bullpen's shaky, but in a short postseason series, you got to hope that your three horses can go deep in the game and that your offense can score enough to where you have sizable enough leads in order to win those ball games.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true here. Okay, so before we get into our last segment here of showing some players some love for this week, final show before the postseason starts, as this time next week the wildcard games will be in. Let's hear it right now on record. Everyone, who do you have in the World Series and coming out on top? James, you want to start?
2017 rematch, Astros-Dodgers. Astros. I'll go with Astros in 7.
Okay, Robbie.
I think we all know who I'm going to say.
Oh yeah, but I want to see who you're beating.
I got the Yankees and Dodgers, and I say that the Yankees are going to win in 6 games.
Okay, I think that's fair. NL, I'm going with Cardinals. I think they're just incredibly hot, and they're going to find a way to get over the Dodgers. AL, it's not going to... As much as I'd love to say Rays or Twins or some obscure team like that, it's the Astros. The Astros are so good. And look, I know the Yankees are good as well, but I think the Astros are going to be able to overcome that.
And since the wildcard games will be... Oh, sorry, you want to leave your game prediction? Like,
yeah. I'll just say quickly, I'm going to say Astros in 5.
Okay. I'm hoping Astros in 7 again because I want another all-time classic.
Yes,
2017 World Series.
No,
awesome.
don't get me wrong. I'd love a 7-game series.
Since the wildcard games will be going on next week, you guys want to drop wildcard game predictions?
Sure, let's do it. I have been saying Rays A's since July, so I'm going to say Rays over the A's. And bold prediction, it goes to extras.
And what about NL?
NL, I think it's going to be in Nats Park. Because the Nats, I feel like they're just going to have such an advantage over the Indians this weekend and win the games they need to. Nats over Brewers, as much as I hate to say it, is the most likely outcome. I'd love to see the Brewers win it for Yelly, but and also, as much as I don't think it's what should be done, I'm saying Scherzer starts and throws an absolute gem.
I'm going to say it's going to be Rays and Athletics as well, and I think that the Tampa Bay Rays are going to come out on top. I think that the pitching is... It's just there for the Rays. You know, the starting pitching is great. The bullpen's great. The lineup is incredibly underrated. And I think that they're going to come into Oakland with a chip on their back, and they're going to come in and beat them. Now, for the NL, I have the Brewers and Nationals, obviously. And to me, I'm going to say that the Nationals also take it. I think that the amount of weapons that the Nationals have out of their rotation is just it's going to carry them in the game.
It's scary.
What do you think, James?
I'm going Rays A's for the AL, and I'll take the A's in Oakland.
Okay.
And then in the NL, Brewers Nationals, and I'll take the Nationals.
So we got 3 of us here saying the Nationals are winning, and we have 2 Rays and 1 A's, I believe.
Yep, that's it.
So we will have to see how that plays out.
Matt Chapman will deliver a clutch hit in that wild card game.
I would not doubt it. That man is one of the most talented players in baseball that no one talks about. So, and you know what? Hey, before we get into show some love, Marcus Semien. Oh my gosh, needs MVP votes. Fantastic year for him. Hopefully get some recognition if they make the wildcard game, goes to a little bit more of a national audience. But with that said, time to show some players some love. And Robbie, you want to start off with a certain player that you feel needs some attention this week?
Yeah, so this is my first time actually making it throughout the whole show. But no, if I had to go with somebody, my guy is somebody who is not talked about very much because his team isn't good. But to me, he should be talked about more. He's one of the best outfielders in baseball. Well, maybe not one of the best, but he's got to work on his defense, but he can really hit. And that's Brian Reynolds of the Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm really high on this guy. He's a young guy.
Pick.
I don't think he gets talked about enough. Obviously, Pete Alonso's going to win the Rookie of the Year. I don't know, James, Andrew, you guys think it's going to be unanimous with Pete Alonso?
It has to be.
It's
going to be
How
unanimous.
can it not be?
Exactly. But Brian Reynolds is hitting well over 300. He's made some terrific plays in the outfield, and to me, he's somebody that just deserves some more recognition. Please stop sleeping on my guy.
All right, fair enough. James, you want to go? Or you want me to give my guy?
Go ahead.
All right, my guy, and I'm going to show a little bit of bias here, but I want to give some love to Hector Neris because you know what? This year has been nothing but disappointment for the Philadelphia Phillies. I think any fan can agree with that. But between the devastation from injuries and the absolute just decimation of the bullpen from opening day, the only guy left from opening day left in the bullpen was Hector Neris. We have over $40 million on the injured list right now worth of relievers. But Hector Neris stayed healthy the entire year and stayed consistent the entire year. 87 strikeouts and 66 in the third innings pitched. 2.98 ERA, 28 saves, and he did blow a couple. He had a little bit of problems with home runs, but all in all, he was a consistent force in a Phillies bullpen that was surrounded by people who were not exactly great. And you know what? Just props to him for doing that. Shout out to Hector Neris. And I know if my grandmother is listening right now, she's probably punching a wall because she can't stand Hector Neris and the way he almost gives everyone a heart attack when he comes into the game. But you know what? I'm going to give some props to Hector. Thanks for a great season. Otherwise, very disappointing. So, James, go right ahead. Who do you got?
Oh, well, I got one of the most underrated players in the game. Finally made his first All-Star game this year. Whit Merrifield of the Kansas City Royals.
There you go.
Fantastic. Again, he's got over 200 hits. He's got 201 hits now, leading baseball. He led baseball last year in hits with 192. He's hitting 301. Got a little pop, 16 homers. Nobody talks about Whit Merrifield. Very underrated, very good player. I think he's just like McNeil. He's a perfect hybrid player for old age and new age. Hits for average, gets a lot of hits, gets on base a lot, has a little bit of pop, and I wish he was on a contender because I'd love to see that guy play meaningful baseball.
He can really play defense too. Something that to me is underappreciated with Whit Merrifield.
No, he's just a great all around player and a pure hitter.
All around a fantastic player. And it's really interesting. If you think 2 years ago he was a name that was being thrown around at the trade deadline and the Royals would not budge on him, they seemed to know what a great talent he was and decided to keep him around for the future.
Yep. And I think before we go tonight, just want to say today, September 25th, is the 3-year anniversary of the death of Jose Fernandez. So R.I.P. Gone too soon.
Absolutely. An absolutely electric pitcher. Very fun to watch him pitch in the NL East against the Phillies all those times. And never will forget that last outing he had against the Nationals.
Called it the best game of his life.
Yes, he did. Called it the best game of his life, and it was unfortunately the last of his life. Very sad circumstances with Jose, but know that he is definitely looking down and seeing a lot of people remember him for what a great and talented baseball player he really was. So with that said, that's going to wrap up this edition of Nation's Pastime in the Nation's Capital. Of course, as always, you can catch a recap of our show tomorrow posted on our Twitter. That is at @PastimeCap. That'll be up sometime tomorrow, and the YouTube link will be there as well, so you can listen if you so desire. And we'll be live again next Wednesday night, 8 to 9 again, right here on WCUA. So with that said, I'm Andrew, and for my co-host, James and Robbie, have a fantastic rest of your night, and we'll see you next week for some playoff baseball.
Peace out.